Okay, let's just get this out of the way. A large inductive load, typical say of an air conditioner. This would be bigger than an air conditioner. Okay. And this one. So both can start a air conditioner, air compressor. So good for your shop, good for your RV, good for your camping. The setup here is just basically this unit here. You've seen them before. I'll just go over some of the updates that I've done. And the interesting part is that this is set up as a 24 volt and this is set up as a 12 volt. And pros and cons, of course, not as many as you think. For the 12 volt, it's just really easy to go into just about any kind of a trailer, or you will have other 12 volt equipment. But if you're really wanting to do more of the solar, it's a little less expensive to go this route because you're doubling the capacity of what an MPPT controller can do. Plus, it just makes, I think, a typical inverter such as like this is less money than, say, the inverter charger in here. Now, again, with some of the updates, with the 3D printer, I'm able to do puts here. XT60 input here. So this would be my solar charger controller. I would have the solar panels going to here, which is the MPPT, and input into the battery from there. This is your main for the inverter on this side. And whether you mount it onto this platform or you're mounting it on the wall, either way, I'll be able to tell how long I should make the cables. So the idea, of course, is that there's really nothing much that you have to do. This will highlight some of the, gives it a really nice clean. I can print capacities on. We've updated the displays now. Okay. Sometimes you might want it a 90-degree angle. If you say if it's down low, and you can see it quite quickly. Each one has its Bluetooth on the batteries. This inverter has it also as an app, which is a very nice app. I'll give them credit for that. The real nice with these two devices, since they don't have the communication directly to the BMS, which is the gold standard, this takes it almost right at the doorstep. By way of, I'm able to dial in exactly what the AC or the solar charge will be. And I can set that right to like a 14.1 volts in this case, or in this one I'll set it to the 27.5. And then that way my cells only charge up to about 3.5 volts, which is ideal. Each one of these uses the same BMS that's controlling this relay. And the nice thing with that BMS is why I choose that BMS is not just because of the relay, but the superior balancing part. So all the cells have to be very close to keep it safe. You can't have one cell that's quite a bit higher than the rest, because you will still get that all adds up to the overall voltage. And not only just it controls the capacity, and that's if you're hearing the people complain about after they've had the battery for a few years, I'm not getting the same capacity. That's probably not just the cell degradation. It's more likely that the BMS hasn't been able to keep the cells all evenly. And this BMS that controls this relay has been a real game changer. I have looked for 8 years for a BMS that could do with this. People buy to match up with their system, a secondary balancer for it. That doesn't even come close to what this BMS can do. So that BMS control is not just doing a fantastic work balancing, but it also does the controlling of this relay. So on or off, on or off. You have it under a large load, and it has to disconnect because the battery cells are all depleted. This can take that kind of a hit. And if it's in a direct short, you maybe plugged in another device that's positive negatives are not marked properly, something like that. Again, I'm really, red, black. But maybe you're doing this at dark in the middle of the night. You don't have the lights on, and you get yourself completely mixed up. That's where having a inline fuse such as like this, and this is like a UL listed. It's a CSA listed. It's made in North America, and it's designed to be able to go all the way up to 5,000 amps without welding itself together, which is generally well within the capabilities of this. And the best part is, let's say you did hook up a peripheral improperly like that, or you took the positive negative and somehow put them together, and you would wanted to do some welding the wrong way. This would catch that and prevents the fire, but it also protects the equipment downstream. And that is right off. It goes from here to the main positive terminal of the battery. So it's the next in line. Nothing else hopefully nothing else downstream gets damaged. And if that does happen, I do believe it's best that we also replace the relay. The relay is designed to take an abuse, but it should probably be switched out. Not a big deal. Not a big deal for money either. We're talking about under $100. And like an hour of work. But it's much cheaper than a new inverter. Now, this setup here is 8K. Hopefully, I think I haven't said that yet. But we have 3,000 watts of solar charging that we can do with here. This will do 60 amps, so that's 720 watts. So it's more than enough to keep your typical RV fridge and your occasional use of the like a coffee machine, and you generally overall wouldn't use more than say 6 or 7,000 watt hours in a day. So this is kind of gonna keep that towards that. But if you wanted to maximize 3,000 watts, then you're talking about, hey, I can run air conditioners. You can do that as well, but it's not as well is based on a 24 volt. Again, you're doubling your capacity with an MPPT. The nice setup on both of these is just the app ability. This one you're going to do the input on the inverter, and you can customize it so beautifully well that getting back to the communications is not as important as it can be because of that preciseness that you can make it. Dimension wise, this is like 2 feet by 18 by 16 high. It's 110 pounds. I can generally ship this across Canada for around the $300 range, and you'll have a 5-year warranty. There's going to be a longer warranty with the cells because generally you're using the CATL. Sometimes it comes into what my supplier can give me. That's the number one manufacturer of battery cells in the world. It's the biggest difference between me and what you're going to find on Amazon. I'm not here to build the cheapest battery, but I'm trying to keep it within reason. I want to use the best cells. I want to use the best BMSs. I want to use the best case. I want to use the best practices, and so that I'm meeting UL standards. It's not a UL listed battery, which would only be good for you if you're a United States customer. CSA standards are not there. I'm trying to use every device that I'm within the battery is a UL or a CSA approved. The battery cells themselves, if they're based on the CATL, they will also be UL listed. Okay, so I know I've also started to explore whether we want fire aerosol suppressors in the cases. I'm not convinced that's has any place or has any pros to it. But there's no really any cons to it other than just the cases are so packed together. That's 8K kilowatt hours in these little tiny little cases. So this is again something where you could set it in, clip it into place. You're not dealing with the bungee cord. And then when you're taking things apart, to taking it out of the trailer, okay, you can, I would say best practice is once a year, just take your driver and just make sure that everything's nice and tight. And then you could take the disconnects off, and then you could take this off as well. So the 3D printer has given me the ability to start making, like little protective brackets around the cells themselves. I can strap them together. I can build these little offsets to make sure that the cell is hitting the case on either side, so there's no slop when you're driving down the road. This is been cut out with the CNC machine for the insert of this. So in the past, I've just bought 3D printed feet that you screw to it. But as making this as one complete platform, obviously I'm more than double the strength of what the feet can take. And that just gets in, it screws in nice and clean and tight. I think that's pretty much everything.